Hello, this is Ronnie from Everything Vive. I'm here on the last day of E3 2018, and I have the pleasure of speaking with two gentlemen from Charm Games. I have Alan and Derek both here with me. I've interviewed with both of you guys before, so I'm sure listeners have heard our past conversation, mostly about Forum and a little bit about Twilight Path. But welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ronnie.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Good to be back.
Yeah. So, I don't know how much, you're able to talk about your upcoming project again, but I did notice that recently you had mentioned that you had a projected release date. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how Twilight Path's coming and what you guys are up to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, production's going really well. We're super excited about it. For those who haven't heard about it, Twilight Path is Miyazaki-inspired fantasy adventure puzzle game, similar in gameplay to Form, but very visually different, and we think will be really exciting for a lot of VR enthusiasts and people who are new to VR as well. We've set a launch date, although we aren't ready to publicly announce what the launch date is.
Sure.
But we're still on target for our previously stated summer 2018 window.
Yep.
So going to be super excited about that, and folks can keep up to date with what our plans are for that on our Twitter Twitter account, obviously, and we will expect to make the announcement about the actual date very soon.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, like I said, I added you guys after doing the interview last time, and really appreciate all the stuff that you upload for people to see, the concept art, like the 3D art, all that stuff. It's looking really, really interesting and cool. I don't know much. I don't know anything else, other than what they're saying over this, and I know I'm intrigued by what you guys have been posting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the game's all about. So
cool.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing it come together.
Yeah,
we have some slices of the game, but
understood.
There's lots of sawdust in the air.
Yeah, sometimes until all the pieces kind of just find their ways together near the end, it's sometimes hard to.
Especially with the kinds of games that we make.
Yeah,
there's a little bit more focus on narrative. There's some companions that you're going through this spirit realm with.
Okay.
So it's really cool when it all comes together. It just takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit different than Form, where the environments were the characters.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's a fresh take on it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no, it's always exciting to see new stuff, and obviously, I really enjoyed Form, so I'm sure the direction you guys are taking with Twilight Path is going to be really interesting for people to finally get a chance to try. Before we get into kind of the details of what we've seen in the show and kind of what we're thinking about E3, what kind of VR types of games have you guys been playing? Have you been playing anything, or is it just have you guys been just locked down in development mode on Twilight Path?
It's a mix of both.
Alan's been playing way more than I do. I'm pretty heads down. I rarely woke up to see what's going on. When I do, it's what everyone else is playing.
I tried most of the big stuff that's come out the last little while. I was excited to try Skyrim VR when it came out. I have many conflicting thoughts and feelings about Skyrim VR. I was gonna say,
I don't we haven't talked a whole lot about either Skyrim or Fallout. Or Doom, for that matter, on our podcast, because it was one of those things. I was super, super excited about them because you knew, on one hand, you knew that they were games that had been previously released and designed for traditional platforms. On the other hand, they were spending a lot of time, and Bethesda tends to get things right. So I had a lot of expectations, I guess, rightly or wrongly, and to be completely fair, I haven't, gone down that path of trying to mod the games and seeing what the community has been able to get out of the performance and UIs and all of that. But my initial impression was it probably wasn't for me, and I didn't really spend much time after I tried it, and I was like, oh, okay, and then.
Well, it was clear that they were hoping that was going to be something that would expand the audience for VR rather than probably hit the most hardcore VR users now. And from that perspective, I think that's good. And, I hope that hypothesis pays off for all of those titles. like we've always felt, we think the best and highest use of VR is going to be for things that are made for VR. So if that's a path on the road to getting to more made for VR content, then cool.
So I know you guys haven't had a chance to check out everything that's been being demoed on the show floor, but I will say that I'm happy to say I got to check out what Bethesda was showing here this year, Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, and then they're also showing a Prey experience. I think it's called Typhon Hunter, and so the Wolfenstein, both of them clearly made from the ground up for VR.
Yeah.
So, using their established IP, but then clearly, with the idea in mind that, okay, let's create something that is better for the platform. And I'd have to say, I had quite a bit of fun. So,
awesome.
Maybe the Prey stuff wasn't exactly for me so much. It was like an escape room type game. It was well done for what it was, but I mean, especially on the show floor, like I had very limited time, so it was kind of like I would look at something, start to get some wheels turning, and then I was like, oh, go do this, and I was like, okay, so I'll have to check that out more like in the future to kind of see how I feel it, but like in general, like the mechanics and moving around the environment, I mean, you were still teleporting and all of that, but it just felt like the interactions and the design was very much with VR in mind from the beginning. But Wolfenstein, I definitely had a lot of fun playing. So Wolfenstein, you were placed in kind of like inside of a mech. So it was you were in a cockpit type environment, and you were moving the mech. On one hand, you were using the right wand on the Vive to move the cockpit around, which wasn't that was kind of the weakest part for me, just because the control, like when you don't have a pivot point for like a joystick or something like that, it's a little bit weird. But then, I mean, it was necessary because you were using, your head movement within the cockpit.
For sure.
And then you were using the thumb pad to walk it forward and back. And they were using some pretty aggressive, limitations on your peripheral vision to make it very comfortable. That's and all good. Of that. But I mean, I was using the Vive Pro with the wireless adapter. And so far, like a lot of times I'm using wireless adapters, I can kind of tell a little bit difference personally. In this, though, I didn't have any of that kind of experience. Like it felt great. I didn't, feel any kind of like queasiness or anything, even though I was, moving with the pad and all of that. And you could tell like all of the the movement, the fact that you're in a mech, like kind of slowed the pace, and you were like lumbering around. So like you could tell that they were making some of those design choices in mind to make it a comfortable experience. And then it was just a lot of fun. Like you had a flamethrower, and you were able to, with that cockpit rotation, you were able to not only like turn the cockpit, but you were able to like spread the fire up and down, and it was really like satisfying. Like it almost like the level design kind of reminded me a little bit of like a Robo Recall or something, in that like you were like in corridors of building, but like in this instance I'm pretty sure it was like like World War II Germany or something like that, but literally, like, so you were pacing down like these city streets, and Nazis were coming out of everywhere, and you're just spraying fire and dealing with it, and it was fun. And cool. The environment was really reactive to what you were doing. So literally, as your mech was you were knocking down trees, and you could slam cars, and everything felt like a good VR game should. When you saw something that you wanted to do, you went and interacted with it, and it reacted the way you were expecting. So that at least in the short time that I played the game, it was just like a 10-minute demo or something like that. But it was for me especially, like I said, in contrast to the other stuff that I've seen them do up to this point, it was like a really this is awesome. This is the next step. So.
Yeah, well, they've got really good people working there, so I imagine when they set their minds to make something that's just for VR, it's going to turn out pretty well. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, no, so I was excited about that, but I guess getting into that, are any other games specifically that maybe games that have caught your eye that people should be on the lookout for?
Oh man, I mean the ones that are on my list are the same ones that are on everybody's list in terms of great stuff in VR right now. I've played far less PlayStation VR stuff than I want to.
Yeah.
So that's probably my next project is to get a bunch of those and dig in, because I've only really tried maybe 4 or 5 in the last little while.
Yeah.
But like Derek says, in the middle of production, even though I do try to play a lot of stuff just to see what people are doing, it's less with the eye of just getting in and being able to enjoy it as long as possible, and it's with more the analytical and critical lens. So I'm looking to the down the road after we've launched Twilight Path, then I'll get to take a couple of weeks and just catch up on the catalog and enjoy a whole bunch of stuff. I did, though, finally finish Superhot VR.
Awesome.
Which I played the first, 30 minutes of that 4 or 5 times, and I've never managed to actually get to the end of it. I finally finished that a couple of weeks ago, and it was obviously worth the time put into it.
I'm the same way, because Superhot VR especially, it's one of those games that even though you start, if you've played it multiple times over and over again, you start to kind of remember the scenarios, but at the same time it's as fun playing those scenarios over and over again. It's a game where even if you don't get it through all the way, you enjoy it every time you pull it up. So.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's one selectively. It's one that I obviously use to show people.
Yeah.
When I'm not showing them form.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. So, I didn't know if along those same lines, if you've noticed any trend. I wouldn't say that the second wave of big VR titles. I almost feel like the next big wave of VR titles are on the horizon. But have you guys seen any kind of trends as far as what titles that have been coming out recently are doing better or maybe worse? I don't know. Can you think of
the one thing that I have seen, not just for us, but I know in a lot of places, is that because there are still headsets coming out there, the games that were early successes continue to be, strong performers in the market anyway, and so that's good for the early developers who took a shot and jumped in.
Yeah.
And I definitely see that. I still on Steam, for sure, Steam does such a good job of lifting good content to the surface that if it's out there and it's worth playing, you're going to see it if you're on Steam.
Yeah.
Which is, that's really encouraging for developers regardless of, marketing budgets or promotion or stuff like that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, what's your experience been with that? Because, like I said, from the press side of things, I'm not, I don't know exactly how effective that stuff was. I obviously use the lists that Steam generates to help me find good experiences. I've heard kind of mixed things as far as what platforms do a better job of that than others. I've heard some people say that it's easier for your games to be more visible on a PlayStation VR release, for example, or Steam. Like I said, I don't have personal experience with that, so I didn't know if you guys have had the opportunity to work on multiple platforms in that regard. Or?
They've all got their own flavor, right? So,
yeah.
That's more a question of just how to be a good partner.
Understood.
With the people you're working with. Yeah.
Understood. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, in terms of larger trends, you were talking about games coming up down the road. I can totally see that there are people who have now trickles of reports of people who have tried the next version of the hardware that's coming out from a bunch of people, and so there's going to be this second wave of true VR enthusiasm that people felt in the same way when we were looking at the first consumer version of the Vive and the Oculus. So the untethered VR experience that's coming down the road. I know a lot of people talk about that as a game changer. People who are not just right now working in VR, but folks in the industry who want to get into VR. That seems like another watershed for them, where once that's a thing, then they're going to jump into that again. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's super encouraging, and I don't know that Oculus has said anything super concrete about what they're doing with Santa Cruz, but that's a really exciting opportunity
for sure
down the road.
No, and especially even the capabilities of the Oculus Go, for example. The biggest features missing from even an experience like that is really the motion tracking, like the 6 degrees of freedom, like all of that.
Yeah,
but like,
huge.
but as far as like the processing power and like what you're able to actually make, obviously there are limitations, but like I'm always surprised when I try those headsets on. It's never the in-game graphics or like it doesn't seem like it's the hardware capabilities on that side that are usually what's like, the lacking part for me. So really, like if something like Santa Cruz comes out with enough power, like it probably will have sufficient power, I'd imagine. It's really adding that motion control element to the standalones that I think is going to just like make a huge difference.
I think it's going to be really exciting where we end up in about a year and a half with some new devices going to hit the market, and then we'll see self-contained wireless, and then I think a trend that'll be pretty obvious after all that starts hitting their stride is shared space co-op.
Yeah.
So like local co-op within VR.
Yeah.
Within
You're
small spot that you could go into a world with somebody else. I think that would be that'd be a no-brainer.
You're seeing more and more of that, like even on the people just experimenting with like Vives and everything like that now. Yeah. You're seeing that crop up more and more, and yeah, the exciting part about that is it allows for different types of experience. Like you would think that you can't see the person next to you, what difference does that make? But like I can say, like even playing demos here, like on the PlayStation VR, for example, where I'm not even necessarily playing like head to head with someone. Yeah. Knowing that those people are in the room with me and I can hear them, like in person. Yeah, like it's kind of crazy. Like
to me, that's kind of like the final curtain. Go wireless and then bring somebody else in that world with you. That's not remote multiplayer, but like local zero latency style experiences. Yeah. That's really where it'll end up. Yeah. I can see that working perfectly. Yeah. You see the other person in VR, and you don't have to worry about hitting them or tripping over cords. Yeah. So I see what you can do with that.
I totally agree. And like I mean, as far as like the wireless stuff is concerned, I mean, I mentioned that like the Prey and Wolfenstein stuff that I played was wireless. Like, I mean, a lot of the stuff at these show floors are usually wireless because they're trying to show off, the new tech that's going to be hopefully coming out soon. But yeah, like it's always something to. It always stands out to me just how differently I play when I'm wireless. Like it's one of those things that just all of a sudden you are able, like the escape room game that I played, the Prey one. You were doing all kinds of rotations. Yeah,
and that's important. It's super important that you don't lose your tracking, you don't lose your immersion. Yeah, you're not. You're less worried about your balance and bumping into things. Yeah, and it kind of just opens up that whole extra dimension of VR.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, and like I said, like I haven't spent like extended PlayStations with the official wireless solution, but it seems to be working much better than like some of the other stuff that I've used prior. So we'll have to see, but yeah, I'm excited about it. So, all right, are there any things that you guys heard about? Like I know you had mentioned you've played a lot less PlayStation VR than you would have liked, and I'm the same way. I mean, obviously our podcast focuses on the Vive, but I think anyone in this industry right now can't ignore the fact that some of the things that they're doing on the PlayStation are just incredible as far as like exposure and getting people excited. Like the number of titles that were being developed here, and even people from the PC side that are realizing that they really need to make a concerted effort on that platform as well. Mm-hmm. Like you just see that a lot more, I think, now than even a year ago.
Well, yeah, and I think it matters to Vive owners and Oculus owners too, because you're going to see a lot of these titles that Sony has supported on PSVR that are going to come to PC
Moss,
as well,
for
right?
example. Yeah,
Moss is a great example, and that's good for everybody because Sony does a really great job at making sure that the games on their platform fit a good content model for their audience, right?
Yeah.
And when that stuff gets onto PC as well, that's good for everybody in VR.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and yeah, I got to check out like quite a few of the PlayStation VR games that they were showing off at E3, and I was impressed by a lot of it's still one of those things where someone that comes from the PC side, you do notice that the motion tracking itself, like on the controllers, isn't where you would like it to be once but other than that, I mean, I'd say head tracking is great, and in general, the software itself is in a really good state. I think people are doing some really innovative stuff to make it work as well as it does, given some of the limitations. And so I'm interested in seeing where the next generation of console VR would head with hopefully the knowledge that they've done some pretty successful things, given from the ground up, having tracking technology on consoles that works well. I'd wonder how big that would be, but yeah, a lot of this stuff I saw in place, it's very smart that people are still using, the controller, because like I said, the fact that the sometimes the motion sensing is kind of the most limiting factor. For me anyways, it's games that use the controller coupled with the fact that the controller can be tracked, that works best for me, because you have the precise controls still, and then in my experience, it feels just as responsive and just as intuitive as any high-end PC VR experience. So I played Astro Bot, I played some and Moss, those games I think work really well, and then vice versa, as you were saying, the fact that they were able to bring Moss to the PC, I was completely surprised by that. I think a lot of people were, and I was super excited to try it because it was something that I had been hearing a lot of things about, and it was a cool game. So
well, for the folks who are making stuff for PSVR, there's something to be said for working within constraints, right? And they've got a different tracking model that's got some things that you can't do in other places. But if you can do that well within that box, then that's going to translate into other VR forms. So that's good. It felt so smooth playing Moss nearly all the time, you were saying. And so once you get that for that platform, it'll feel good other places too.
Totally agree. So I know you guys didn't get a chance to really go on the floor as much as you would have liked. Were there any things that you heard about that you're like, man, I would have liked to see? Or
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big question.
But at least 35 of the 50 games Microsoft talked about sound exciting.
Yeah.
There's a whole ton of stuff. And I'm blanking on all of them. But I want to play everything that Microsoft announced. I want to play everything that Sony announced.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's one of those things, I think every year, I know that the graphics are getting better, that games are getting more complicated, all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of you sit back, especially as they're making announcements and you're seeing the gameplay stuff for the first time, Death Stranding and
the new one from the Dark Souls guys. I can't remember the name. That one looked really good.
No, I'm trying to think. It was in the Xbox show.
This Undead Samurai.
Yeah, it kind of harkened back for me anyways to Tenchu and some of those. When I saw it, I was like, oh my god! I almost thought that's what. And then it was From Software. There's so many cool it was one of those times where you get a chance to see everything that everyone's working on, and it's I don't know how anyone finds the time to play so many. I remember that back in the day where you could play every major tentpole release, and really nowadays there's so much quality across the board that honestly there's an unlimited amount of content for people to play if you're into this stuff. So
yeah, totally.
Good time to be a gamer.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, along the same lines, looking at trends in VR. I actually had a chance to try out some stuff over here, mostly at the Devolver Digital, expo, whatever you want to call it, across the street from E3. Got to try out this experience called Microdos VR, which I did an interview on previously, if you guys are interested. But it was really, really cool to see some of that stuff because a lot of it was like very experiential VR experiences that I hadn't tried before. So I did the Microdos VR, which listeners will know about probably from the earlier interview. That was kind of a procedurally generated, almost like a visualizer, like visualization, like mixed with the team behind it. Like they have. I mean, I think it's a 4-person team, but they have this a well-known artist named Android Jones. I don't know if I wasn't familiar with him myself until I talked with them, but after seeing his work, it was very much like, oh, I've seen that stuff before. Like he's worked on a lot of really big things that I think just even pop culture wise, like people will recognize. Very distinctive, like kind of almost like Eastern inspired, like very like kind of trippy, like cool visuals. And so they're doing a lot of things procedurally creating this stuff with the idea that they want to make tools that allow people to basically use VR as a way of making new interactions with music. Cool. And so I mean, but it was really well done and really like it. You saw a lot of potential there. And then also got to try some stuff where I was like more like meditative type experiences where like I was laying down and had like using the microphone to kind of hear how I was breathing back and forth. The game was actually, or the experience, it's not a game, was reacting to my breathing patterns and kind of intense. It felt like pulse, like going back and forth, and kind of taking me through like a 15-minute or so journey where like the visuals were warping according to where my state was, and then they had it set up where the actual bed that I was laying on had like motors in it that also responded, and it was kind of, I mean, literally after that 15 minutes, like I took the headset off and I went back to what I was doing before, and like I did feel like I was completely taken away for like just completely I'm sure that is exactly what they're going for. And totally. It's cool to see that kind of stuff because I think it's a good reminder that that VR, while I love games and while games are a big part of VR, I think VR is also bigger than games, and it kind of crosses a lot of different types of human experiences and different mediums. So it's fun. Like it's cool when you come to E3. VR is kind of like a niche within the gaming industry, but you think about the medium and the potential it has to be kind of a niche in all kinds of industries and all kinds of that's something that I kind of personally took away from seeing some of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyways, it was very fun talking to you guys.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. So
thanks a lot, Ronnie.
So safe travels home, and we look forward to learning more about Twilight Path. So if you guys want to remind the listeners out there, the best is Twitter is Twitter the best way that people should reach out to you guys and follow what you're working on? Or
you can find us at Charm Games on Twitter, and when we have news, that's where it goes, and you can check out some cool concept art and see some early versions of the things we're working on that'll ship in Twilight Path later this year.
Okay, awesome, and look forward to playing it when you guys are ready to release it. So
awesome.
All right, take care.